Yeah, and it just signed, and just the thing just popped up on my page. It said David is recording this call.
Perfect.
I guess it worked. Okay.
All right. So I kind of already sent you the questions that I wanted to ask you. I
Yeah.
don't, you to be unprepared or anything. I don't think that I've heard you talk about some of these things, and so
I'm
that's.
seldom ever unprepared. I'm very seldom unprepared.
But these
I've
are
been doing so many radio shows over the years. I've had every kind of question thrown at me you can imagine. Uh,
well, great. I just these are kind of the questions that I wanted to ask of you because I haven't heard you talk about them, and they're things that I want to know. And so my first one has to do with what's going on right now. Everybody's talking about coronavirus, and I think that even civil disobedience at this point would kind of be pointless because even if you went to like I said, I drive around the neighborhoods because I'm delivering now. I was a bartender, I lost my job, and even if I went to those parks and I removed the sign that said park closed and I put open instead or something like that and did some kind of civil disobedience, I think it really wouldn't matter at this point because I think there's something worse coming. I think there's another virus maybe that's going to be even worse. And if we kind of act like all of this is a hoax, then we may be unprepared for what's coming. What do you think about? And I know I've heard you recently talk about October
yeah.
of 2020 and something really terrible coming. But is there anything else that you can say about that?
No, actually, I don't know what to say about that. I just know that all the signs are pointing to the last week in September and the first week in October. And
That's
something is going to happen on a worldwide scale,
that's
all
right.
over the earth at one time.
Do you think it has to do with the election?
All ultimately, probably. But whatever it is going to be worldwide. Some kind of a terrible collapse of civilization. Something is going to happen. I don't know what to say about it. I don't know what it is. I just believe something is going to happen. It's going to be very, very bad in October. And then 1 year and 4 months after October, everything will come back to normal again. We'll get back our life and we'll be able to live again. But this time, the whole entire world will be under a digital command. Everything will be digitized. Banking, your credit card will be digitized so that if you get out of line and you give the government any reason, they will just go into their computer and click your digital number and hit extract and erase. And that digitally means you are finished on the earth. No more having to go to court and do this and do that and have lawyers and the judge and all that bullshit. No. All you need is a digital number, which your credit card will be digitized like a Bitcoin. And that being the case, all your life's work, everything you do, everything you earn and own, will be digitized onto one digital computer. And if you get out of line, that somebody's just going to hit the button, delete, and digitally you're dead. It's over.
So, but
No
when you
more.
say in a year and a half or a year and 4 months that everything will go back to normal, do you think that that's going to change or that's going to stay the same?
No, that's what's going to change. Is the whole world's going to be digital. It'll be a new world order. It'll be all digital, so that They won't have to go to court to sue you for anything. They won't have to go to court and demand that you do something. They could just hit a button on the computer, and it just deleted your digital coin, your digital coin. It just deleted your digital number, and that means your credit cards, your ATM, your bank account is all digitally destroyed. It's gone. That's it.
Okay.
That way they'll be able to control you.
Well, I mean, they already control us in so many ways. I mean, and people I see are so willing to just go along with it. And I see people in their cars wearing a mask. And I'm thinking to myself, how are you going to catch a virus in your car by yourself?
Because they're so stupid. First of all, you don't catch a virus airborne. I've heard the best scientists in the world talk about it's ludicrous to say that you catch a virus in the air. You don't breathe in a virus. The only way you get it is mouth to mouth, or something where you touch something, put it in your mouth, or put it on your skin or something. That's how you get a virus. You don't get it by breathing like a flu or getting a bad cold.
Well, one of my first questions, kind of to change the subject, do you know anything about the Gray Pope? Do you know anything about the papal bloodlines? I guess they're calling, and I've only really heard about the Gray Pope in maybe the last 2 years. It's something kind of a new conspiracy theory, if that's what you want to call it, that's kind of emerged on the internet over the last couple of years. They're calling him the king of the Illuminati, and they're talking about this individual named Pepe Orsini, and they're talking about the Aldobrandini family and some of these people. Is there anything that you know about that you can share?
I think there's something to that. I don't know how much or how deep it goes, but there is something to this idea that the present Pope that we see today is not exactly the Pope. That's not who he is. I don't think you can have two popes at one time. That's against canon law, having two popes at one time. Well, we do have two popes. One is retired. You don't see much of him, and then you have the new pope. Well, you can't have one pope without the death of the first one. Well, the first one's not dead yet. He's just staying out of the way. So I think that there's something going on here on a very incredibly demonic scale. Some very incredible stuff is transpiring on the earth with the two popes and the black and the white pope. I think he is the black pope that's in there now. And you put black and white together, it becomes gray. So I don't know what's going to happen. All I know is that there's a lot of dark stuff going on behind the scenes with big people at the very top who are themselves ruthless. They don't care about human life. They don't care about you. They don't care about any country. They care about themselves. And they're very powerful and very evil.
My next question had to do with the truth community being divided itself. We're fighting amongst ourselves. Every time I go to a video or something on YouTube, it's talking about the truth. It's trying to get to the bottom of what's really going on. And everybody seems to be fighting. We have all these people who are talking about, they're promoting, the Zionist agenda, and they're very pro-Hitler. And if you don't basically just give the Sig Heil and worship Hitler, then you are the enemy to them. And I don't understand that. I understand that the New York Times back in the 40s and 50s they were giving a lot of propaganda regarding Hitler, saying that he was making candles or lampshades out of people or whatever. And I know that we can't necessarily trust what came out of Nuremberg because the Russians were probably trying to take the blame off of them, and they exaggerated things, what Hitler did, and they killed way more people. And, when I was going to school, we never learned really about a lot of what the communists and the Russians were doing. All we heard about was Hitler. Same as we only heard about Einstein. We never heard the name Tesla. We never learned these things. So, but right now we have it seems like we have a big problem where people in the truth community, so they like to call themselves, are very divided between who's in charge. And I have a problem with that because I think that we really need to take a look in the mirror at ourselves. And are we propping up the system ourselves when we use those Federal Reserve notes? And I guess, maybe you can shed some light on that. I don't.
I think if you trace it all back and keep going back further and further and further to the line of human power, coming together and taking over and being in charge of the world and our destiny, I think it can be traced back to the 1500s, to the founding of the Jesuits. As far as I'm concerned, the Jesuits are incredibly important in this whole mess the world is in today. It's the Catholic Jesuits.
I believe
totally
that is
sure.
This book as well, Fire in the Minds of Men, talking about the origins of the revolutionary. This is a very difficult book to read.
I loved it. I loved it.
I guess
I got it right back here.
I'm not the smartest person. I try to read this book, and it is very, very hard to read.
It's a heavy book, but it's fascinating because it's just crammed filled with juicy stuff. Every page has juicy information on it you've never heard before. The guy was phenomenal who wrote the book. He was the chief librarian for the Library of Congress. James Billington wrote The Fire in the Minds of Men. He was the chief librarian for the Library of Congress.
I'm not sure because, like I said, it's a very difficult book to read. How much he goes into the Zionism of it all, but and you say the Jesuits are really in charge, and that's kind of what you've said for a long time. And I trust your information, so that's what I've always thought. But I have a problem when the people that are supposed to be fighting, the powers that be, or whatever you want to call them, are so divided on who really is running things. And, and David Icke and Jeff Rentz, they really promote the whole, Rothschild Zionism, the Frankist, Sabbatean kind of cult thing. And then, you go more towards the Jesuits, and so does, I think, Michael Tsarian, talking about the Red Papacy. Yeah. So, I think in that article that he wrote recently, The Red Papacy, he was talking about sort of a compromise between the Zionists and the Jesuits, because they were both very powerful, and they both had a lot of dirt on each other. So they just kind of maybe decided that they were going to just let things be or whatnot. Do you know anything about that?
Well, I know that you're right that there has been a lot of stuff about Zionism, and I do believe Zionism is a development in the mind of the Jesuits. I think that the Jesuit priesthood is behind what we call Zionism. It's a Catholic Jesuit political movement. It has nothing to do with being Jewish at all. It has to do with something else that's going on the earth that's far, far above all of our intelligences. Something else is going on this earth, and it impacts us by using Zionism. But I think it is the Jesuits who have come up with this word, Zionism, and what it means. Because when you find out what Zion means, and where it came from, and what it implies for today's world, it sure sounds like Jesuit to me.
Does that have to do with the Prairie de Sion?
Yeah. The Prairie de Sion and the whole Jesuit operation. Because the Jesuits are very powerful people. And the reason why is because they've never had anybody try and stop them. Once in a while, the papacy, the Pope, would try and do something, but they were too powerful for him. So you can't stop them. You can't do anything against them. They're too powerful. Why? Because they're in political power. They are the politicians behind the politicians. They are the real powers of the bankers behind the banking. They're the powers that be, the secret powers behind banking and government and the president and the governmental systems that we have on the earth today. Jesuits are involved in all of it, manipulating our money, our government, our destiny, and our people. So America has become the new Roman Empire.
So, do you think that Trump is elected or selected? And we have a very difficult time answering this question because the left is the Democratic Party, which you have said is the most filthy organization to exist on the face of the planet.
Yep.
Is so against him. In order for me to think that he is, selected, I would have to think that this entire operation I would call it an operation of them hating on him so much and always going against him with everything he says and being so fake. It's like, how can you be so fake unless you were just pretending, maybe? But in order for me to think that he was selected by them, I would have to think that this whole idea that they hate him so much was just sort of a psychological operation. And they don't actually hate him, but they actually want him there.
Mm-hmm. They want him dead. And I know why. I understand why. Because the Democratic Party is the reason they're called Democrats, is because all communist countries are known as democracies. All communist countries, since the founding back in 1922 of the Soviet Union, when it was founded, it was called a democracy, the People's Revolutionary Democracy, or the People's Democracy of the Soviet Union. So anytime you hear democracy, in my mind, that strikes of communism, democratic.
When I hear that word, especially when I hear it on the news and then saying our democracy, say either you don't know what you're talking about or you are promoting this. But I know it's a terrible word. And,
Yeah.
Like you've said.
That's why when you see riots in the streets where they're turning cars over and burning buildings and busting windows in businesses and throwing up fire bombs to burn out the businesses and turning cars over, we call it a demonstration. Yeah, well, we've had demonstrations in Los Angeles. Demonstrations comes from the word democratic. Demo is a word in ancient Greek meant a gang. When you see a gang in the street of 30 or 40 guys, they're all drinking, they got guns, and they're a gang, that's what you call a demonstration. And that can be very, very frightening and very ugly. And that's when people lose their lives, rape and murder and killing in a demonstration by Democrats. Because demos means the masses. The unwashed masses of people, millions of them, hungry, and having no food, no water, no work, can't pay their bills, and therefore they are demonstrating in the streets. And all you have to do is feed them and give them what they want. Give them some alcohol or their drugs, and give them the money they want, and give them the place to live, and feed them and take care of them, and they'll be fine again, because that's all they want, is they want a free lunch and a free ride. And they want you to feed them and take care of them, and if you don't do that, they'll burn your house down. They'll kill you. And so that's what we have in demonstrations. And as far as I'm concerned, this is what's happening to America. We are now in a position where we are a democracy. Democracy means the rule of the poor people, the rule of the masses. Well, the masses have never known what's going on. They've never been told the truth about anything. So how can, depending on the masses of people, to go out and vote for what is good for America, what's good for humans? You don't go out and vote for something that's going to help the human family. It comes only by people, individuals coming together, deciding they've had enough of the BS and they're not going to take it anymore. And from now on, we're going to have a rule of law. And there is no rule of law in America today. It's all a democracy. With half the people ranting and raving, screaming, racist, he's a racist. And the others are screaming something else, and before you know it, everybody's screaming at each other, and it's destroying the republic. This is like the fall of the Roman Empire. That's what we are. We are the Roman Empire.
I have heard somebody describe a democracy as when the people realize that they can vote the largesse of the treasury or whatever into their own pocketbook.
Yep, you're right. If you can get something out of government for free, that the government will give you a home to live in, and they will provide food stamps and food for you and give you a home to live in, and if you can get a steady paycheck from the federal government, even if it's just $1,000 a month, it doesn't matter. If you get a steady paycheck that you can depend on every month, then they have bought you off because they got more money than God. So they can print the money. They don't need to worry about where they're going to get it. They print it.
Yeah,
they print it
like
and send it to you. Yeah. Yeah, they make money the old-fashioned way. We print it.
So my next question had to do with why you always bring up the term understanding. And I've listened to you for many years. I've heard you bring this up more than anything, the term understanding. And I think that what you're talking about is having something to do with realizing we have a personal responsibility for propping up these institutions ourselves. We are the foundation of authority. As far as, who said that you were the real news? Who said? Like I've heard you say, who said you were royalty? But, I started asking, who said that you were the real news? And not just with the news media, but with lots, and it has to do, I think, with us, we the people, being the ones that are the foundation. Is that what you're kind of getting at? Because,
well, I was saying to understand means to stand under the foundation you're going to build on so that you can correctly understand. You go downstairs underneath of whatever you're seeing up here in your life, go down underneath, and then you're down under the foundations. And now you're going to understand what's actually happening. But if you know what the words mean, you know what the symbols mean, you know what the name of the tune is and how it's being played and what the game is all about, now you can understand why you are involved in what you are. Now you can understand why the world works the way it does. Because before you didn't understand. You just go by what you see, which is what we all do because you were born a baby. Like Rodney Dangerfield said, I got my start in life as a baby. And then I worked my way down. I started on the bottom and I worked my way down from there. Yeah. And so that's what's happening. We are only coming in on the last 30 seconds of a 3-hour mega movie, a tremendous movie. And we're coming in on the last 30 seconds of the movie. And we're trying to figure out what is this movie all about? What is this earth all about? You would need to have been here 10,000 years ago, 25,000 years ago, maybe 150,000 years ago to find out what this earth really is and where it came from and why there's so much life on this one planet. Why? There's a reason why. There's something going on here on the earth that we have not been told. And we're not being told right now. So
well, when you say it's a movie, I totally agree. When I see these judges in their costumes, I realize it's just an act.
It is.
I remember, 15 years ago, I went before a judge, and I stood up to him, and I said, United States Code, Title 28, Section 3002, 15A, definitions for judicial procedure states that United States is defined as a federal corporation. You represent a business, a company, a corporation. You do not represent the republic.
That's
and it
right.
was an entire courtroom of people. But they already knew I was coming because I sent the judge a bill. I said, well, thank you for your order. You can't just go around ordering people to do things because we don't live in a dictatorship. So this is your bill. You owe me $7 million. And actually, the judge had to hire an attorney against me because he thought that I was going to file a lien against his house. So I know that stuff works. I know the stuff works. I was being civilly disobedient, like Rosa Parks. But the problem was that I was alone.
Yeah, I know.
I was all by myself, and nobody was there to help.
Just keep in mind, remember Gandhi. He was alone too, but he changed the whole empire of England to move out of India. One man by himself, Gandhi.
I just found what they were doing to be completely unacceptable. And, this is not necessarily just from, you teaching me about maritime admiralty. I think the first time that I heard from you or knew about you was when you were talking about the Queen of England exposed. And you were talking about maritime admiralty and that. And it blew my mind. I'd never heard anything like that. But I was also listening, to other, sovereign people. And it upset me when, these people were getting arrested and they were, standing up for, because I was terrified, of course. But I could not live with myself knowing that I did nothing to stand up against these people for what they were doing. And what they started to do was they made sure that when I went to court, that I was the very last person to speak to the judge. They made sure everybody
always did that.
Yeah. So that it was just me and them. But in that moment, I saw and I knew what they really were, which was just a bunch of actors. And this whole thing is just a mirage. But I honestly, I thought that they were going to kill me. But I didn't care because I had to stand up for what was right. And I just, looking back on it, I stay out of the courts, but they arrested me for everything. They knew who I was. They arrested me for jaywalking. Literally. They didn't give me a ticket for $25 for jaywalking. No. They arrested me because it was me. And they already knew me. Said, oh, phew. We're going to stomp our boot in your face, buddy. I'm going to make sure that you understand.
You're right. You need to understand that this is a court, and you play tennis on a court. How? With a racket.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing is a racket. That's why they call playing tennis on the court. The whole idea of going to court is because you play basketball and tennis on a court.
But also, I think a food court, you're going there to get services.
I know. It's really interesting the way words are used in law and why. It's a whole story. It goes back thousands of years. If you look up in a dictionary, look up bench. The bench is where the judge sits on the bench, right? So if you go back and look up the word bench in the encyclopedia or dictionary. It will tell you the word bench is a Latin word for a bank.
I actually told that to a judge, and it was in front of a courtroom of people. This is before they decided that I was not going to have anybody else in the courtroom when I spoke. But I said to the judge, I said, hey, the bench is the Latin word for the bank. And she said, no, it's not. And I said, yes, it is. And she said, no, it's not. And I said, yes, actually it is. It's the Latin word for the bank, coming from the Italian banca rota, meaning bench rot. Bench is the Latin word for the bank. And she said, get him out of here. And I said, well, I'm sorry if you're upset, because I know how to read a dictionary. But, well.
And unfortunately, I was taught how to think. And so I know bullshit when I see it, and you are full of it. So adios, amigo.
But, I straight up I told the judges. And, I know that you've said judges don't talk to dead people or whatnot.
Let me give you another example of how crafty this BS is, how deceptive this is when you go to courts, the law. When you get stopped by a police or highway patrol or somebody stops you in traffic, the cop walks up to you and he wants your identification. And sometimes he will look at the picture of your ID and say, is this you? This so-and-so, is this you? And you say, yes. That's what he wanted to hear. You have agreed that this fictional character here, this fictional character in commerce, you are accepting responsibility for this fictional character. So now he has you on record as saying you agree that he has control over a fictional character because the state that you live in has given him permission to have overseer over this fictional character called, and your name is in all capital letters on the driver's license. That means you're a fictional character. That's what it means to have your all capital letters on your name. It means you are not that person. You are represented by that person. This is a persona. It's your persona. It's your person. And so therefore you're not a man or a woman. You're a person being represented as a persona. And so therefore, when the cop, here's my point though, when the cop walks up to the car and he's going to give you a ticket and you want to show him your identification, well, he pulls out his ticket, which is the same thing they do in the department store when you're buying a pair of pants or new shoes. They're going to give you a ticket. It's a ticket, and you're expected to pay the ticket. And so when he pulls out the ticket, he fills it out like the girl at the department store fills out the ticket, what she's charging you for. So you're being charged with this, like charge it with your card, your credit card. You're being charged. And here's the charges. And so when he signs out, he fills out the ticket. But keep in mind, it's his ticket, not yours, his ticket. And then he signs it, his name. Then he hands it to you, and you sign it. Then he tears off and gives it to you. but he keeps a copy. What you don't know, and no one's ever told you, is that you are an undersigner in a ticket in commerce. This is called a commercial ticket in commerce. It's a business, and he has just charged you, and you have to pay the ticket. But you are an undersigner. You are a co-signer. You signed it with him, but you're the co-signer. And because you're a co-signer, you can take that ticket and photocopy it and keep a record for yourself of the ticket. Take that ticket and put it into an envelope with an affidavit that you are saying to the Secretary of State, mail it to the SOS, Secretary of State.
I've heard you mention this before, but not go into detail. So I'm very interested in what you're saying here.
And then you send this ticket to the Secretary of State, which you say is SOS, save our ship. No, Secretary of State. And so she's going to save your ship, because your ship's in deep water, it's in hot water. And so you send this ticket to the Secretary of State and tell her, please help me. I have inadvertently, against my will, did not realize I was undersigning. I was a co-signer in this ticket in commerce. I have decided I don't want to be a co-signer. I don't want to co-sign for anyone. I'm sorry I did that because I didn't know I was co-signing for this officer. He signed it first. I co-signed it. I don't want to co-sign. And she will take that ticket and send it to the Department of the Treasury Department of the state in which you live. And the state treasurer will then take that ticket and send it back in the mail to the cop's address and tell him on a piece of paper coming from the Department of the Treasury in the state in which you live, you, officer, owe this ticket, and it's already over 2 weeks old. You need to pay this ticket now because the person you gave it to was an undersigner, and he has decided he doesn't want to co-sign. So that means you have to pay it because it's your ticket, and you're the one that made it out, and you're the one that signed it. So you pay the ticket, not him. And I've seen that happen. I've seen it with my own eyes. I saw it happen with a friend of mine.
Insurance companies, because the insurance companies are the undersigners for the banks, as you've said. And it makes me think that the Secretary of State has something to do with insurance.
Of course they do, because your money is on a piece of paper. When you write an amount of money, you always have an S and a line through it. Today you have an S with 2 lines through it. There's a reason why it's a second line, because it used to be just an S with 1 line through it. The I and the S was an insurance script. IS was insurance script. That money that you got is an insurance connected to the insurance policy for the United States of America, insurance. And that's why your money is an S with a line through it.
It's very
It has to do with insurance script.
Wow. I have never heard that before.
There's so many more things I could tell you that you would not believe when you hear them. Do you know that by law, you are not considered a man?
Yes,
and the reason why you're not considered a man. And why? Because here is what the law says. Here's what it means. A man is the most powerful political standing a human being can have, is to be a man or woman. Man, according to the law, is over a judge. I don't care if it's a Supreme Court judge of the United States. He is a Supreme Court judge. He's not a man. Man means that you are the highest political power on the earth, according to the ancient laws of Europe. A man was far higher than a king. That's why when you go before a king, you are subservient to him. Why? Because you're not a man. Because on your birth certificate, it says when you were born, you were male. Male and female. Look it up in the Styles magazine of the United States government, prints a magazine called Styles magazine. The Styles magazine, printed by the U.S. printing office, means all the words that are used in government and what they actually, in fact, mean to the federal courts, not what you thought they meant. They give you all the words that you could ever use in a court and what the court views them as. And so you find out, you look up man, it will tell you, see, male. You look up the word male, and it will tell you you are not a man. If you're a male or female, you're not a man or a woman. You're an animal, because animals, according to the dictionary, are called male and female. So when you were born, the doctor put on your birth certificate you were a male, not a man. Because if you were born as a masculine, that means you are a man. A masculine baby or a feminine baby means a female, feminine. But you are not masculine or feminine. Your wife is a female and you are a male. Why? Because you are an animal. Dogs are male and female. Cats are male and female.
We say this all the time when we're talking about people in general. We say, that lady is foxy, or that woman is a bitch, or, that person is a pig, or, there are hundreds, and I could talk about that for 20 minutes, about all the different terms that we use.
That's right.
And even in the military, right. You're a maggot.
That's right. And then when you go in, you're a private. A private. Yeah. Yeah. Everybody has privates.
Well,
so that's telling you something about what the military thinks of you.
Yeah. Well, I have a story about the military, but maybe for another day.
Yeah.
How much of this do we deserve from being apathetic and people not wanting to hear the truth? Is this just what's going to happen to us? Is this just the way it's always been? Speaking of Barabbas, you've talked about people not wanting to accept the truth because they can't handle it. You've talked about emptying the Pacific with a paper cup. Is it just the way that it's going to be, and we can't do anything about it? Because I've tried to talk to people about the truth, and honestly, I understand your experience. I have heard you, and I know that you speak from wisdom when you talk about people only wanting to hear what they want to hear. Because I have been ostracized. I used to have a lot of friends, but when I started talking to people about truth, I found that nobody wanted to really have anything to do with me.
That's right. I can understand why.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. What Jesus said in the Bible has Jesus saying, the slave is no greater than his master. What they have done to me, they will do to you. So whatever it was they doing to me, they will do to you. Why? Because he wanted to come here to help the human family, to raise the sick and raise the dead and heal the sick, and to help people to grow and live together. Well, they spit on him and nailed him to a cross and said, "The hell with you." And they nailed him to a cross and he died. And the idea is he died on a cross. And so today you've got to live your life and bear under the cross. You've been given a cross to bear, and you're carrying your cross to bear. People don't want to hear the truth. They're not interested in truth. They don't want to hear what they want to hear.
Some people, when I talk to them about astrotheology, they're kind of open to the subject. Maritime
Well,
admiralty.
now that the whole world's talking about it, yeah.
Forget about maritime admiralty. I've had people tell me, whoa, stop, buddy. I cannot handle this. It's too much. And, even with the astrotheology, I've had people tell me, you know what? People only care about being pretty. And you know,
That's,
there are certain subjects that people are more open to. And when, you know, I spoke up to the judges, they decided, hey, we're just going to throw you in jail, buddy. But when I was in jail, I noticed that everybody wanted to hear what I had to say because I was talking about the things that you taught me. And every single day, all the inmates in the jail would sit in a circle around me and say, what are you going to teach us today? And I was surprised because I didn't experience that outside of jail. But in this position, it seemed like people realized that
there's something to all of this.
Yeah. Because I was the one that stood up to the judge. They wanted to hear from me because he was the one that took their freedom as well.
Keep in mind, judges all wear black robes. Keep in mind, Catholic priests wear black robes.
The Geneva robe.
That's right, the Geneva robe.
The Bank
and
of
why you have black robes?
The guard.
Darth Vader wears a black robe. Dracula wears a black robe. All the evil is wearing black robes in this world. Why? Because black was the color of the planet Saturn. Saturn was the god of the Jews today. Today, Jews worship the planet Saturn. Saturn is referred to in Judaism as Lord of the Rings. Why? Because he is the Lord of the Rings. Saturn. And Lord of the Rings, if you look it up in the dictionary, will tell you Saturn was called the Lord of the Black Robe. He was symbolized by someone wearing a black robe. Well, judges wear a black robe. And when you graduate from college, which means you have been gradually indoctrinated, you've been gradually indoctrinated, and you come out with a square mortarboard on your head and a black robe. The square mortarboard is the same as Mecca in Saudi Arabia. They're worshiping Saturn, the planet Saturn. And Saturn is called El. In the old, ancient, prehistoric world in the Middle East, Saturn, the name of Saturn was El. And among northern, when you move from Egypt, go north into Palestine, Saturn was referred to as Shabbath. S-H-A-B-B-A-T-H. Shabbath was the name of the planet Saturn. And so if you're going to worship Shabbath, it was called Sabbath. So, and remember to keep holy the Sabbath. No, there's nothing holy about the Sabbath. It's the worship of the planet Saturn. Saturn was the planet of Shabbath, or the planet that you worship on your Sabbath. And that's why today we have the Sabbath. The Jews go to the Temp El, which is the planet Saturn. They go to Temp El on the Sabbath, which is Saturn's day. They go on Saturn's day. But why did they go on Friday evening? Because Friday evening, from sunset to sunset, is a day for the Jews. The Jews count their days from 6 o'clock in the evening to 6 o'clock the next evening. Why? Because original Judaism was moon worship. They worship Allah. And they call him Yahweh. Yahweh is Allah. And so today we have the Islamic goofballs running around raping children and killing people and worshiping the moon god, Allah. The moon god was called Yahweh in Hebrew, YHWH. And today the Jews and the legal system of America and the American system of government is all worshiping the planet Saturn, Lord of the Rings. As a matter of fact, they're still making movies in Hollywood. The Jews that run Hollywood are still making movies called Lord of the Rings. So it's an incredible story of betrayal, ignorance, and stupidity, and that's why America is shut down and is now having to deal with being shut down completely. You can't be seen with your neighbors. You can't be around them. You can't be next to them. You can't go to the store. We don't have any jobs. You can't go to your job. You can't do anything. And you just have to sit here until we tell you what you can do. Because you're no longer a land of the free and the home of the brave. You ain't free or brave.
And I think that we're finally going to be forced to confront the truth. I mean, we talk about the invisible enemy. We don't really know what to do about it because we can't see it. But people like you and me, we can see it. We know. And, you know, I did have a question for you regarding whether the people that are really in power are actual, you know, if they are actually in tune with some sort of demonic force. But
I like what one guy said. One guy said the only people who believe in American government are the people who have never experienced it. Wait till they come knocking on your door and throw you in prison and beat the flying hell out of you and take your family from you and throw you into prison, and you have nothing you can do. You are mistreated by gangs, and you finally decide, you finally see that you are not respected as a human being at all. You're just an animal. Now you understand what's really going on.
Well, you know, many years ago, I kind of forgot about this, but there was a time where you had said something about if you want to know something or something, ask the universe and say it out loud. And one day I did. I said, you know what? Show me. I want to know. And within a millisecond, all the darkness in the world, it was here at my heart. It wasn't something I could see or hear or taste or touch. I just felt this overwhelming, I guess the only word I can use to describe it is evil. But
yeah.
It wasn't, and immediately within a second I said, no, I've had enough. I can't handle this.
Well, you asked for it.
I felt it because I asked out loud for it. And I said, I want to know. I want to see what this is. And I want to understand it. And it was something that I have never even imagined could even exist. But I know. I don't just believe. I know that there's something profoundly evil.
Well, that's why God could say to you, well, you asked. You asked me to show you, so I did. I showed it to you.
Yeah, and I had no idea that that's what we're, you know, I feel like we're going to be confronted with that very soon. And
you will.
No
You're
idea.
being confronted with it right now. You're being confronted with the worst evil there is. Tyranny. When your government comes in and tells you what you can do and what you can't do, where you can go, what you can't go, and who you can criticize and who you can't. And if you open your mouth, you go to jail because you're a terrorist. You're terrorizing the thugs that want to beat you up and take everything you got and rape your family and take everything from you. And if you give them any opposition, they're terrorized. They didn't know you were going to act like that, so they were terrorized. Therefore, you're a terrorist. And now all the other knuckle-dragging, intellectually inferior human creatures around the country will see you as a terrorist. Why? Because you stood up for what was your rights. And you were a terrorist. That's why I don't have to stand up for my rights. I don't bother. Because I understand how it works. I understand what the words mean and how it's all being played out. And that's why democracy is for the common people.
Well, speaking about democracy, and I just happened to remember because I was listening to an interview with you recently where you were talking about Akenatón, and you were talking about communism, and you were talking about a disc. And it reminded me of this book that I read by Manly Hall. This is called The Secret Destiny of America.
Yep.
In the second chapter, it talks about the world's first Democrat, and it just so happens to name Akenatón as the world's first Democrat. That's Manly Hall. Secret Destiny of America. I know this is a project that you said you've been working on. I don't know how long ago that interview was, but how is that project coming along?
Well, the project started in 1967. So it's been a while back, a little while back. I don't even know how long that is. It's over 50 years, I think.
Well, I have a lot of your works. I have somewhere here the New Order of the Ages or something about that. I've several of your works.
Well, I've got a whole story to tell the world that nobody is going to believe. Nobody's going to be ready for it. Nobody's going to be ready for what I'm going to tell them about the world they live in, about the government they live under, about the religion and God and all the rest of the story. My God, I could go on for 8 to 10 hours every day just talking about all the lies, ignorance, misunderstandings, stupidity. You have no idea in the world how bad off we really are.
I think I have some idea, but you constantly surprise me.
Yep, it's an incredible story. Anyway, I'm going to have to go pretty soon.
Okay.
We could do this another time when you want.
Sure. I mean, it's almost been an hour, so I'll just thank you for your time. I know I have to go to the bathroom as well. So there was a couple more questions I wanted to ask you, but we'll save that for another day.
Okay, we'll save it for the next time.
Sure. Jordan Maxwell, thank you so much for taking the time to
That's quite all right.
With me. I appreciate it, and I am grateful for you. I value what you do, and I hope to see more of you very soon.
Thank you very much, and I'm always around, so when you do another show, just let me know.